Coming up, Mark Mix. Mark Mix runs the National Right to Work organization. He's the CEO there. Mark, great to have you with us.
Today, lots of news to talk about, lots of things happening, not only in Washington, D.C., but in Richmond, Virginia as well.
Well, let's get to this public service bargaining, third-party bargaining thing, collective bargaining thing that we have been talking about now for months. It got to Spanberger's desk. She didn't veto it like we wanted. She came back with kind of some soft amendments. This thing is the biggest disaster that really came out of the General Assembly because it's going to cost taxpayers hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Average tax bill, according to Heritage Foundation, is going to go up to $3,000 per family that own a home, that pay property taxes. Rents are going to go up because that's just reflective of property taxes. Tell us about her amendments and where it stands now, this egregious bill putting some third-party arbitrator in charge of a county or city's budget.
Yeah, John. Well, first of all, thank you for making this a big issue because, I mean, the fact that this bill is still, quote, in limbo is really a surprise, I think, to the Democrats and I think to union officials across the Commonwealth of Virginia. They thought this was a fait accompli. They put everything they could possibly want and have in any other state beyond what they have in any other state in this bill, thinking that as Scott Surville, the Senate Majority Leader, said, we're going to hand 500,000 government employees over to the Service Employees International Union. I mean, that was his quote at the beginning of the session. And John, with your help and the help of obviously lots of grassroots support across the Commonwealth, and interestingly, John, a bipartisan group of supporters opposing this bill, the governor basically did not sign it. She sent it back with what were basically 17 different amendments to the bill, all in one bill. She sent it back on April 22nd to the legislature. They came in for one day. They passed it by. We urged them to reject the amendments because the bill was so bad that if Spanberger would ever have signed it, it would have, to your point, John, it would have been a disaster for taxpayers and property owners in Virginia because that's the only way they could raise the money to pay what is going to be a multi-million-dollar per year expense to the citizens of the Commonwealth. So she issued these amendments. John, you'll be pleased to know this. She took out the binding arbitration and said, well, we can't force a county commission to accept these paycheck or these tax increases to fund this. And then she took out some other things that were a little bit less well understood. But the bottom line is she blinked into this. And now that bill's back on her desk. The Senate rejected the amendments. So the bill is where it was when it passed. What Surville said was a 500,000 person payoff to the unions. And she's got on her desk, she's got, I think, 26 days left to either sign it, veto it, or let it become law without her signature. So what we've got to do, John, we got to stay active. We got to stay on top of it. We got to call the governor's office at 804-786-2211 and tell her to veto the bill.
We got 22 days. This should be a full court press. Let me tell you the good news is I really thought when she sent that back, I really thought that the state legislature would just pass it with her amendments. I really thought they would because I figured, okay, they even though they took out the independent collective bargaining, they got most of what they wanted.
Yep.
A lot of the other amendments were soft, like it didn't really matter that much. But it seemed like what she did was throw enough stuff in there. She wants this to go away. I really believe she wanted this whole thing to go away. And I really expected them to pass it. They didn't. They sent the original bill, like I said, back to her desk, which she was going to sign that. Mark, she had already signed it, but now the pressure campaign is mounted because I think do you agree with me? I think the Virginia General Assembly, the Democrats in there expected her to sign off on it.
I think they did, John. I think that's why they put everything they could possibly want in it. But your point is well taken. That's kind of what happens in a legislative body. You try to grab for everything, you accept something less, and then you just build it back up over the course of the next legislative session or whatever. It's really simple, kind of politics 101. In this case, and that's why it was so important that the Republicans didn't accept any of these amendments, because it really was taking the warts off the witch, if you will, and making it easier to get this done, or at least get something in place, like creating a personnel employee relations board, which would adjudicate relationships between state employees, government employees, and county commissions and or the state, the Commonwealth of Virginia. So it's an important step. And the fact that they did not accept the compromise means they still think they can get everything. But I think to your point, the governor knows that this has a dramatic impact on the Commonwealth and it changes everything. John, we talked about this before. In fact, I had Robin Voss, the Speaker of the Wisconsin House, in our building last week. And we talked about Act 10. Act 10 was the Wisconsin bill to basically take what Virginia's heading toward and reforming it back to a very, very small part of union power over government employees in the state of Wisconsin. We know, he said, that has saved the state over $30 billion since Scott Walker signed that Act 10 reform, dramatically pulling back the power of organized labor when it came to government employees. So I think she knows that if she signed it the way it is, it's a real problem for Virginia.
Listen, I think that her polling numbers have tanked. They almost lost this referendum, which they outspent Republicans 4.5 to 1. If it hadn't been for mail-in ballot collection, which the Republicans have no answer for, that thing goes down in flames. I still happen to think it's going to get struck down by the courts. But, you know, she's looking at these polling numbers. She doesn't need another massive affordability debacle lying on her desk. So now the onus is on us. Mark, if you look at how we started this going into this session, you and I, which I think is the A team here, you look at how we started this thing. The Democrats wanted to get rid of right to work. That was their number one thing, right? We stopped that in its tracks. That's nowhere to be found now, right? So going into this thing, we thought we were probably going to lose that. And Spanberger was very ambiguous on it. We thought this collective bargaining legislation, which is horrible, with a third-party arbitrator that has not even the bureaucratic system, just flies in and leaves. That's crazy. We thought that was probably going to pass. She didn't sign it. Now the big thing is we lose if she does nothing. So she has to act. She has to either veto it or send it with more amendments back, and she's already done that. So other than signing it or not doing anything, what happens?
Well, I would prefer that she veto it because that kills it, and then we end up starting over again with a fresh piece of paper and a fresh sense of anger of this grassroots, and we can multiply that because if the economy gets a little worse and county boards and city commissions are looking for more money because revenue's down, I mean, this has a dramatic impact on that. So I'd rather go into next year thinking that it's going to be an election year too, John, which is the other part of that. You know, the full Senate's up and the House of Delegates will be up again. Spanberger won't be. But, you know, John, one of the amendments she basically offered up was that the whole thing would go into effect in 2030, January of 2030, 2 weeks before she leaves office. I think it was Louis XV in France said, "After me, the flood." He said it in France, which is a much more romantic language. But that's what Spanberger was telegraphing here. Look, I'll be gone by the time this thing takes effect if they accept my amendment, and I won't have to worry about a thing because all of the bad stuff, all the tax raises will come after I'm out of office. So
well, the brilliance of that politically for her was she doesn't have to deal with it in the short term.
Right.
Taxes don't taxes don't go up. Property taxes don't go up as a result of that during her tenure. So, but then she can go to Iowa because I fully expect her to run for president. She can go to Iowa and get the union back in and say, "Hey, I signed the bill, or I did, amendments to the bill. I'm for it," even though she was for it after she leaves office, so she didn't have to deal with it. I mean, it was a brilliant political move. But her communists in the state legislature that want this done now saw through it, and that's why they scrapped it in the Senate back to her.
Yeah. So basically, where we're at, John, is it's on her. If the ball is in her court, or she's in the batter's box, I don't know what metaphor to use, but we got to keep the pressure. There's one spot where we can make a difference right now, and it's not in the General Assembly, but it's in the governor's office, and that's why you got to just stay after it, keep pushing. We're gonna spin up the phones again and spin up all the things that we're doing to contact Virginians and having them call into the governor to make their piece of this, their peace of mind, give her a peace of mind on this bill.
I mean, we got 23 days, right?
I think that's right. Whenever 30 days after April 22nd. So you can figure that out, John, if you're looking at a calendar.
So
I forget what the day is exactly.
We got until May. We got until what? May 2021 for her to do something, right? Now,
or she can do nothing, which would be, in politics, that's the courageous thing to do. Do nothing, and let it.
Well, if she does nothing, it becomes law.
Yeah.
But it becomes law immediately. So doing nothing, I don't think she's going to do nothing. Can she send it back with more amendments again, or is it?
No, that process is over. I think, as far as I can tell, unless they want to make some special dispensation for this. But the regular order is she sent the amendment back, so they rejected it. It is now up to her. There's nothing left that they can do, that the legislature needs to do with the bill. It's up to the governor.
So she has two choices: veto or do nothing. Do nothing, it becomes law. Veto, it's gone. They have to start over. But why I think our pressure campaign will really matter here, and I'm going to get into this again, is because if she does nothing, it becomes law immediately. And one of the tenets of her amendments was to put this off until she's out of office. Yeah. So that goes away. And then she's got to deal with the property tax increases that invariably are going to come with this. And so she's going to have to make a tough decision here. I say we help her make it.
Yeah. Amen. And you've been helping on this and mobilizing Virginians. So that's pretty important. And again, John, to point out, this is bipartisan. The opposition is angry on the Democrat side, at least those people that are elected officials at the city and county level. We have 133 units of government in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Only 14 have decided this was right for them when Northam signed a bill to allow it to be optional and you could opt into it and do it, but there was no structure behind it. Now we've got a full-fledged government bureaucracy that will manage it if this bill passes and goes into effect. The first thing to do is set up this board. Then the board will start handling elections, and then we start having bargaining negotiations. We don't know exactly how they're going to end, but if she doesn't sign the bill or if she just basically leaves it, then binding arbitration is the law of the land, John, to your point. A third-party arbiter comes in and says, oh, no, Fairfax County, you agreed to a 7% pay raise, but your budget number says you can't afford it. So I'm sorry, you can't cut that back. You've got to pay 7%. The Richmond City taxpayers have to pay 38% in for certain jobs that have an increase in pay after union bargaining. Union bargaining, the union officials' goal is to get more money, because more money that comes to the employee is money they use to get, because members pay dues and dues go into politics. It's a vicious cycle. And we're here at this point where Abigail Spanberger is looking at it and saying, what am I going to do? And John, you may be in her mind a little better than I am, but it doesn't hurt to make sure a politician understands that if she does this, there's going to be pain.
Let's help her make the decision. I mean, we've moved the ball. First of all, you and I are the A team. There's no question about it, because I'm going to say it again. Going into this General Assembly in Virginia, if you were on what are those betting sites, Cashy or something, Polymarket or whatever, I don't
know what the number was. What was it?
It was both of them. We were like 7-1 underdogs on both of them. I mean, I don't participate in those for obvious reasons, conflict of interest. Yeah. But we were big underdogs on both of these, and the problem she's got is the affordability issue that she ran on. We have exposed the fact that this is going to raise taxes, so it's opposite of what she said, and her poll numbers are tanking now. And she's sensitive to that. So let's flood the zone. Let's flood the zone and let's call her office. How do we do that?
Well, they can reach her at 804-786-2211. I keep that number right here on my desk so I can give it to you every time we talk, because and we've gotten some good feedback, John, from members across the Commonwealth calling up saying, hey, we can't get through, the line's busy, or they won't answer the phone, or you leave a message. I mean, you got to let the people in that office down there know that we're paying attention. And, John, that's the ultimate part of our participation in the political process and the public policy. We have to keep track of what's going on. And when we find out, we've got to make our voices heard. That's for sure. And that's the only way we can win this.
That's going to be the key. We have to make our voices heard because, as much as I rail about what is going on right now and the division in this country, if you're Abigail Spanberger and your poll numbers are worse than's ever been recorded after 90 days, I mean, they have just been abysmal because, she's not doing what she said she was going to do. And then she came within mail in ballots, people putting ballots in boxes because we have no operation to defend ourselves with the mail in ballots. That's how they passed this referendum. You take that away, this thing goes down in flames. I mean, she's got issues here. And remember, everything that she does, this is why calling her office is going to be effective 804 786 2211. She wants to be president. She wants to be vice president. Everything she does is through that political lens. And having poll numbers that tank doesn't lend itself to the next step that she sees herself. It's actually really hurts her. So she's going to try to do something that is not going to further exasperate her dropping in the polls in Virginia, and flooding the zone with calls accomplishes that. 804 786 2211. Mark.
All right. Yeah, that's the job today. Make the phone call, and a job tomorrow and the next day. John, I got to run. I got another engagement at 8:30 that I got to get to. But look, thanks for letting us talk about this again. You've been a leader on it. I mean, the people that are listening to you have been leaders on it. They've made their voices heard, and so we're in a position that we didn't think we were going to be in. All the pressure's on Spanberger. It's time to let her know that we're watching, we're paying attention, and maybe the nation's paying attention too. How about that?
Well, I think they are, Mark. I think this is a big deal. And, activism on our side has been very successful. Uh, 3-4 months ago, we thought there was a chance we'd lose both of these. Now there's a chance we win both of them. It's only because of our listeners and viewers and the work that your organization has done together in waking people up on how much of a disaster what they're trying to do is. Mark Mix, thanks for being with us. People want to follow you. Very easy. All you have to go, all you have to do is follow Right to Work. Go to right2work.com, right2work.com. Mark, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, John. Good to be with you. Thanks.
All right, Mark Mix doing a super job there. We've been following this through. One of the things I love about the show is our ability to drill down in a particular state and then follow something through instead of just doing, a 6-7 minute sound bite and that's the end of it. And then you forget about it. That's what almost everybody else does. We like to take issues that we think are meaningful and important and follow it through the system. So whether you're in Montana or Virginia, Washington, D.C., or Atlanta, Nashville, wherever you are, you're able to take an issue like this, follow it through, see how it applies to your own state. And we get into a little bit of the sausage making, even though you can't get too deep in that. It's not good radio or TV, but you got to have an understanding of how this stuff works. And activism works. And we have been very vocal in some of this stuff. There's a lot of things that we've been right on in the past that we continue are, and it's our listeners that make the difference. So want to thank everybody for doing that, Dan.